Welcome to another episode of Revenue Leaders Uncovered. Super honored to be joined by George today. George, if you can introduce yourself, but also your awesome company.
Yeah, sure. No, well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm George Smees, one of the founders, like you said, of InnDex. I'm a civil engineer by trade, so in a past life, yeah, I went to university, did civils, went up through the system, main contracting, that sort of thing, and then became chartered. And then realised that actually, the industry is almost broken, and we need to bring some technology to it. And I was by no means a technology sort of fanatic. I was much more happy to go away and deliver jobs and write up my diaries and update the project plans and the programs at the end of the day in the sort of the old ways. But then quite quickly realised actually there's a lot of opportunity to make bigger strides by actually trying to help bring technology to people in construction like myself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I love the construction tech space. I mean, it's where I do most of my recruitment, and it is something that is ever evolving and evolving so fast. I mean, there are companies coming out of all different places for all different types of solutions. I think what would be great for the listeners to understand is a little bit about Index and what makes you guys unique. Why should someone be using your software?
Yeah, definitely. So the way that we came about sort of founding InnDex, it was genuinely because of our own frustration. So Aaron, my co-founder, I met him at university as well. He worked more in the sort of supply chain. So he worked on tall buildings in London. So he'd go down Bishopsgate and most of those tall towers. He was involved in those. I was more in the sort of the road rail infrastructure type stuff, working for sort of big civils, main contractors. And really, where we sort of found our niche for InnDex was trying to not think about how we bring technology to senior leaders within business. It was actually how do we put tools into the hands of people actually delivering the work? And a byproduct of that is then that data, which then drives that decision making at that senior level. So our niche really is the fact that we make it really easy for everybody who comes into that project. So every time, they're coming through that project gate in the morning, we start off that induction process. How do we ensure you've got the right people with the right skills, with the right qualifications are coming into that project and they've been given the best opportunity to start that project in the best place. So they've got the knowledge, they've got the understanding, they know exactly like what the project is, what they're here to deliver. So a brief, I guess. And then as they come into that project, they're verified onto the job, and then the InnDex apps becomes their toolbox. So everything that they will do happens within the InnDex systems. They'll be coming on, they'll be doing an inspection of a machine, they'll be doing a RAMS briefing, they might be raising a safety observation. So just everything that they do out on the ground, trying to put it in one place. People aren't having to download multiple different systems. There's always an excuse with people in construction around not knowing where they're meant to do something, so they don't do it. If you can make it that they only have to go in one environment, and then that data then can go into lots of other different places for different decision makers, it makes their lives easy, but it also means they haven't got the excuse of not doing it. So our big thing and what we always sort of like lean into is 90% of the people on the job are delivering that job. If you can give them the tools to allow their job to be easier, you're going to have much better progress. Make them 1, 2, 5% more efficient. The overall gain of that across the whole project is going to be super impactful, right?
Definitely. This is what I love about this space is that the solutions you're providing are actually making a direct impact. It's not just some crappy AI software that just adds a little bit extra just for fun or gimmicks or whatever. This is actually adding true value to what is probably the biggest industry in the world. I think it's something like 3 trillion or whatever stupid it is. But it's also the fact of the amount of money that's being saved by bringing these solutions in. And it is such a hard sell selling to the construction world that actually getting people to walk away from legacy softwares or selling the value. I imagine it's something that all construction technology companies struggle with.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, getting your foot in the door and proving value is massive. The way that we look at it is that, so if we can prove value on a trial project, like we stick it out there, 50 quid a week, kick it around, see if you get any value from it, lock in for, a couple of months time. If you like it, you continue on the path with us. 99% of people do. If you don't, you kick us off, no hard feelings, and we'll back away, and you either continue what you were doing or move on to another option. I really do think that it's very, very hard for a disruptor to come in and portray the value that they're going to add to that project or to that business without sort of proving the worth. You've got to go through the motions of actually showing, look, this has saved this person so many minutes or hours or whatever it is per day. If you think about the induction process in construction, and I can take you back to, I was on a major infrastructure project back in 2018. I came onto the job in the morning. I sat down in the induction room around about 8 o'clock. Cup of tea, couple of biscuits, the usual sort of stuff as a construction worker. Honestly, you're filling out paperwork. People are coming in and out of the room, scanning your cards, your CSCS cards, taking a photo of your passport. There's just so many different bits and pieces that you're having to fill out and write your name 14 times, even though it's all going to the same location, right? Like there's just repetition of the same task. That day, right, I didn't get out onto the site until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was on a day rate, I was there, and I was, this is interesting. It's a really cool project to be involved in. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was paid a lot of money to sit in an induction room in a hot, stuffy room. And then I got out onto the site and I just thought, am I really going to achieve anything today? And you sort of meet a few people, and then basically the day's over and you go home. And if you just think about how many people are doing that every single day, there's 2.5 million people just in the UK on construction sites. The average person churns or moves job at least once a year. That's 2.5 million days wasted just on that induction process. So that's why, we thought, okay, that's our way of showing, that short-term value. And then if we can then show some long-term value off the back of that, then you can really start to say, well, actually, you get an ROI on day one, and then you're getting like continuous ROI then as you then push forward a year down the line, whatever it might be. Definitely, it was really helpful to sort of prove that you're bringing valuable tech to the industry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if you just look at the 2 million days wasted that you mentioned, you then start to look at actually how much quicker would that project have been finished, and then all the money you save on that back end side. You're already looking at the upfront cost, but actually, could you bring the project forward a whole year just by not wasting those days? Or maybe that's a bit drastic. I don't work in construction.
We can dream. We can dream.
Yeah, but the money that would be saved could be millions or whatever it be. I love what you guys are doing. I know when we first spoke, you've obviously got a super exciting platform. And if anyone's listening to the podcast that's interested and want to know more, then obviously reach out to George. Where I'd love to take the chat is a little bit about recruitment. So I know you guys have been going through a bit of scaling of recent, but I'd love to know what your strategy is for getting the right people in place.
Yeah. No, look, recruitment is hard. Finding the right people, not just the right people on paper, but the right people who fit into your organization culturally. They've got the same ambitions, the same drivers, or at least alignment in terms of, part of their drivers about what they want to be doing. It's quite hard to come and join a business of our size. We're around about the 50 mark now, and our business is changing all the time. We want to retain sort of our culture and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to be seen and felt as within the industry, and to try and bring people in at the speed that we're trying to do that is really difficult, because when we were just myself and Aaron, bringing on the first recruit, it was quite easy, because it's pretty simple. It's me and Aaron, and this you're going to be working with, and crack on, and we'll have fun, and enjoy the journey, and you'll grow as people whilst we grow as well. Today, we're having to bring together 50 different dynamics to almost have that interview process to bring this person in. Like, you don't want to lie to them. You want to make sure that they understand what they're signing up to. We want to ensure that everybody else in the business is happy that we're bringing in this person that's got alignment with them and they're going to enjoy working with. There's a lot to there's a lot to think about. And, from the point of view of myself and Aaron and the senior leaders in the business, making sure we're bringing in those right people, it's really important. But at the same time, it takes a lot of our time as well, ensuring that it's not too elongated, the process for the individual we're recruiting as well. That's massive. We've had it before where we've had 6 or 7 different sort of steps in an interview process, and we're sort of like, well, we want to make sure it's the right person, right? But it's people like yourself, Ollie, who help with that side of things, because it means that we can rely, we can trust, and we can ensure that when we are getting to the stage at which we're starting to look at these individuals, then we know that at least 5 out of the 10 boxes are ticked, and then it's just that, do we gel, do they fit, those sorts of bits and pieces. So it is hard. I think sort of winding back and looking at the way that we've recruited over time is probably quite interesting. So very early doors, it was very much like a word of mouth, using our own network, friends of friends, colleagues of colleagues, all this sort of stuff. At some stage, that doesn't scale. We've over doubled in terms of the amount of people we've brought in over this last year. And like I sort of said before, it does take out a lot of our time when we're trying to, build a business and ensure we're with our clients and building the right products. Trying to then backfill people in to come into the business is really difficult.
Definitely. It's the old saying of that you've always got to be hiring, because look, we talk about it quite a lot on the podcast with other guests, that as much as we'd love to keep hold of these great staff for the next 10, 15 years, whatever it be, and the team never changes, it's just not the reality. People will move on, people's careers, the company can't quite offer that next career progression for them at the time, so people will leave. It's always about, and as you probably learn and seen of the ever evolving recruitment process, that it does grow, it does scale, you sometimes pull back, you need an internal recruiter, you have an external party, whatever it be. And I think the most important thing, and probably where you're at the moment, is that, as you said, the amount of time that it takes to hire someone, to interview them, to vet them, to screen them, references, whatever. This is where an external party comes in, of that actually we take away that sort of the crappy tasks or the longer tasks. That the way I always say to clients is that we can save you 20 or 30 hours a week by just doing that initial pre-screen of a candidate. As you said, we can sort of tick those boxes for you without you having to speak to them. Again, as you've highlighted, having those processes in place of the not having a 6-stage, 7-stage interview. And a lot of what it comes down to is actually just trusting your gut. A lot of people, you involve more people, because actually as a startup, the cost and risk of hiring the wrong person is so expensive. I learned firsthand with my previous company as a director at, it was my mate's company, but we hired all of our friends. We thought, oh, he's a good recruiter, we brought them all together. Well, I was the only one who made money for the business. that and no surprise, that business went bankrupt. That is just
it's much harder to fire a mate as well, eh?
Oh, don't. I remember my first person was my first ever hire. He became one of my closest mates, and to be fair, he is still one of my closest mates. I don't know why. But yeah, it was the most awkward experience, but a great learning experience for me. I don't know whether he enjoyed it, but to be honest with him, he has his own recruitment agency now. He's crushing it. So everything is. There's always a silver lining.
Taught him well.
Yeah, he lives in London. He literally is down the road from me. So yeah, it's quite nice. But yeah, it is one of the hardest things. And it's something that I spend a lot of time with, like early stage startups, just working them through their strategies, their processes for hiring, because I obviously get to work with multiple startups and actually have that communication, which is, again, just a free service I'd like to provide people, because good karma, I believe in. Let's put it that way.
100%. Look, everything in this world is trust and relationships. And, if people trust you, then good things happen. And you've sometimes got to give a bit to then be able to take a bit in the future. And I think that's important. And that's the same with anything you do in life. If we've got customers that we've gone and, gone the extra mile for, to develop out new bits of technology for, because we realize and we value their custom, but also we bet on the fact that they actually know where that next opportunity is. So it's actually it's all a big web of just, let's not call it luck, but in some ways it's luck driven by trust and by just being a kid human, right?
Definitely. Look, it's something that I've been talking a lot with, and we've had a few guests on the show that really honed in on this, that actually selling in 2025, if we go back a few years, even when I started in recruitment 6 or 7 years ago, that cold calling and just brash sales, the cowboy style, especially in the UK, that worked. People would buy from you. They loved it. If you had a bit of a London accent going on, it was great. But actually going forward, and we're looking at 2025, people are buying based on trust. They're buying from people they believe in. And actually, this is why startups, I think, are actually having a lot of success now, that because they're getting that more personal experience. That's what people are seeking out for, versus what it was before, where you could just send 16,000 emails and you suddenly got loads of clients on. That just doesn't happen anymore. And hence why I run a podcast. It allows me to build trust with people. You get to know the individual you're working with. You can go, okay, this guy isn't an absolute idiot or delinquent like 90% of recruiters in the UK. I love flagging them off. It's fine.
I love it. I love it.
But it is, and I think if more companies adopted this, where they're looking to build trust with people they know, or using people in their networks with who they know, they will generate a lot more success in the coming years.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. We've never been an outbound based business. We've always been inbound and referral. We are starting to change that a little bit because we're going into new regions and we're not known in those regions, so we have to create a base for that. Our growth to date, we've always doubled every year, so we've done very well, but it's always been that sort of trust and referral basis. But I would agree with you. I'd say at least the last year, the amount of inquiries that are coming in because we've been recommended has just gone stratospheric. It's unbelievable, because people are suddenly speaking to friends that they trust, and these friends are recommending and saying, well, actually, they were, InnDex were considered the new kids on the block a few years ago. They've actually proved that they're not just the new shiny thing. Like, they're actually delivering a lot of value. People are really, rate what they do. The tool actually stands the test of time, and they're not aggressive with that sales. They're here. They're available. They want to work with you, and I think that is common amongst everything in construction, right? I just think about when I was out delivering work as the main contractor, and you had supply chain sort of built into that business that you knew and you trusted and you depended upon. And yes, you had to go out to tender, but you going out to tender to a couple of 2, 3, 4 suppliers that you knew could actually do the job, rather than taking a whim on someone who's come in with the right price and a flashy deck. It's exactly the same concept as us selling tech. You selling your services, and it's a trust-based world that we're living in. And I think it's great. Like, I love that. I'm not a salesperson. I'm a civil engineer that's delivering value for a problem that I had before in the past. And pretty much everybody in our team that is in the operational, the client facing side of InnDex is from the industry. So it's we don't want to be salespeople. We just want to solve the problems that we all had.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. As much as I am a salesman, the way that I go about business isn't that approach anymore. And someone asked me the other day, Ollie, could you go back to being a cold caller, sitting on the phone and doing it that way? And I was just like, I don't think I could. I think I got so comfortable and so used to actually people not telling me to F off every day that why would I want to go back to that? Mentally wise, I'm a lot better. I'll say that. And it's just I think this is the way that most sellers will go. I think there will always be a place for being salesy. I think if you're a car salesman, then fine, or if you want to sell whatever, then you've got to be salesy. I think when it comes to selling a services or getting tech out there, you're seeing a lot more of like the Model IQ, which, especially in this context space, it's all to do with referrals. That's how I pick up most of my clients, is they come off the back of being referred, which is very different. For me, I used to do cybersecurity, and that industry is just a dog eat dog world that you don't get referred in when you do in some cases, but it's very different to how loyal the construction world is. Once you've got a
Yeah.
client, you've got a client for life. That whole saying is.
No, exactly. And until you piss them off, they're wanting to do business for you because they trust you. Again, coming back to that word, I think it's quite interesting. So like this year we've actually started, hiring a few sort of like SDRs and like giving it a go because everybody's doing it, and we're like, well, let's try it. So the two SDRs we've got in at the moment, they're both actually from the industry, so they'd not done sales each before. One of them was a civil engineer, and one of them was a sparky electrician. So both like worked on sites and know how to like talk to people and have that conversation and can say, look, this is why I'm part of this business, is because we actually saw value in this tool ourselves, and then we basically inquired and saw if there were any jobs going, and that's why we sort of hired these people. And it's really interesting. Like I've never done cold calling, right? And I hate hearing when they do get the F off and the things like that, because that just like grates me, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's so awkward, for the client, but also for one of my teammates. It's quite sort of like you feel bad for them. But problem is if you don't start doing that and everybody else is doing that and chucking money at it, what happens? Can you grow at the rates and really get your messaging out there about the change and the difference that you're having? So it definitely it needs to happen. But I think you're right. It's the balance between it, and it's saying, right, there's the old school way of doing sales, but then it's marrying it up with that sort of the ability to actually, you're talking to real people who have jobs to do and deliver on, and you want to add value to what they're doing, not just phoning them 10 times a day trying to nick a couple of quid out of them. So
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think you've gone about it the right way. I think having those individuals who have come from the industry, I always say, is a huge, huge plus if you can do it. Even if you're hiring an AE that's been a salesperson for 3 or 4 years, it's still, if they come from the industry, one, they understand the language, one, they can communicate. So the individual on the other end doesn't feel like they're being sold to. They're talking to their mate on the site or whatever it be. And especially if they're using that story of the, it already breaks down that barrier. This is what I love about this, the social selling side of things, is that you already can sort of create, let's say, a LinkedIn profile. If they're on LinkedIn now, actually saying in their bio, saying that they're an engineer by trade or they're a construction manager by trade, straight away the person won't feel like they're going to be super sold to. You've already built trust again of the, okay, this guy actually does know what he's talking about. It's not just going to be me when I'm talking about, I don't know, supply chain and logistics. Never worked that industry. I know nothing about it. So probably if I'm trying to sell or recruit, sell my services to it, I probably don't understand it. But
yeah.
again, it's all to do with trust. But where I'd love to sort of take the conversation is a little bit, actually, I want to talk a bit about your journey. So we have touched base on it. I'd love to understand what made you feel like you were the right person to be a founder.
Who knows? Stupidity, maybe. I'm a bit of a risk taker. Yeah. Now, so my background. So I'm a farmer's son from West Wales, and at age 11, I used to, with a mate. I think it was a rainy day. I remember it was a rainy day, and we went out into the field, and they farm new potatoes. My parents do, and we just went and dug up a load of spuds, and on the side of the road, which was quite good traffic on that road. I think you had about sort of like 400 cars a day. Not that I was counting, but there's about 400 cars a day. And we used to try and sell potatoes to people driving around Pembrokeshire, going and seeing the beautiful scenery that is. And it really took off in the first day. I think we made for age 11, we made like £100 in the first day. And obviously, that was pure profit because mum and dad were getting none of that money because we weren't telling them that we were taking the spuds out of the field. It was it was quite a good little margin we were making. So anyway, that's where it sort of started. You have the old playground things as well, different businesses you're sort of setting up and things, and trying to do what you can, ducking and diving, having a bit of fun whilst you're doing it, and then get to uni and meet Aaron, and we started doing bits and pieces whilst we were in the library studying, getting up to all sorts of mischief, and different bits and pieces. And then 2017, I think we started a business, and it was doing what's called as-built drawings. So it was post-construction. This was the design. This is actually what was built using CAD, and basically transferring that as-built onto the original design, and giving that back to the contractor. So that's where we sort of like started a business, and that allowed us to generate enough money to then start paying some developers to start developing InnDex, and that's where we sort of first of all brought together that team. Now, we did it a very unconventional way, which I'm really pleased that we did actually. So we didn't raise any cash. Me and Aaron continued to work in our sort of contracting roles for another sort of 2 years whilst we were building this product. I think the reason that we didn't raise any cash is because we didn't really know how to do it. It was just a bit of an unknown, and we just thought, oh, that sounds a bit much. And then we've got people who are committed to what we're doing here. Like, we're just having a bit of fun really building this. So that's the route we went down, and luckily then we started driving a bit of profit, and then we started like paying ourselves. That minimum wage that you can pay yourselves is pretty crazy when you've been earning actually quite good money being a civil engineer up here in London. So you're on minimum wage for a couple of years, and then you start to realize, God, this is I'm not sure how this is going to work out. And me and Aaron sort of ducked and dived, went back to work for a bit, and then we basically, our first 5 clients were all referrals. So it was like, yeah, we like this. We're a subcontractor for this main contractor that you're working with. Can we start using it? So we were like, how much do we charge these people? Completely making up all of this stuff. Honestly, it was fantastic. It was class. And then we managed to get on an incubator, which was incubator over in East London, and it was all about sort of social impact and things like that. So we were really trying to like dress what is our deck, but we didn't really know what a deck was at this point. But what is our deck on how we're making that social impact? So we were like looking at people and how they're placed and how they're experienced, and marrying that up with construction and making sort of Chippy's not doing Sparky's work and all this sort of stuff. So like we did, it was the grounding of what InnDex is today, really, because we are trying to better align, these different people with these different skill sets on these different projects. So, having that experience and having to negotiate our business plan around the social impact incubator was actually pretty cool. And then sort of went on from there. So coming back to what your actual question was, I honestly don't know the answer. I think one thing that we've always retained in the business, and I hope that everybody in the business does agree with this, but we're just normal people trying to build tools for our own benefit and putting them in the hands of other people and hope that they like them. We're not risky. We don't go and leverage ourselves up silly. We hire when we can afford to hire. Our marketing budgets, you'd laugh when you compare us to like industry norms. We're like we're tight as they come. We are tight as they come with just everything that we do. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm qualified to do what I do, but it's enjoyable, and we're here and we're continuing to do what we do. So yeah, nothing more than that, really.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I absolutely love your response. Love the honesty to it. I mean, there's exactly what I want on this podcast, is people actually being honest, because I think actually if a lot of other founders that have been on here were actually honest, they probably didn't know it was for them. But as it's happened, you've in a sense nearly just fallen into this role, and the company's going great. What you guys are doing is awesome. I'm sure it'll be super successful as well in the coming years. I think that's the best thing, is that, like me starting my org, I just randomly fell into it. I always wanted to one day maybe have my own agency, but that company went bankrupt, and I went, well, I reckon I can do this. Well, so I don't want to go. I was working for my best mate. It was great. I didn't want to go and work for someone again and be like my first company where I was sworn at all the time, like work harder. And I was already literally pushing my limits, having 3 panic attacks a week pretty much. So it came a lot sooner than I thought. But I think the best piece of advice I ever received, which was from my dad, when I rang him and said, do you want to lend me some cash to help me start my business? And he goes, do you not believe in yourself enough to pay for it yourself? And I went, I do, yes. Do you want me to use my savings to start my company? He was like, well, if you believe in yourself and you think you're ready to start your own business, do that. And actually, that was the best. It was at the time, I was like, oh, come on, help me out, old man. But actually, it was the best piece of advice because I didn't earn a penny. I've done everything by myself, bootstrapped it, haven't had to get an investor. And again, very similar to yourself, I'd love to maybe have grown this a bit quicker, but I didn't know how to go and get investments. It's never
You
been
can
an
you,
investment.
you can never do. You can never go quick enough. I think that's always the thing. Like, no matter, you have all of these wise people who are, either at the same stage as you, or maybe they've done it before, and they're always saying, you need to go faster, you need to do this, you need to spend there, you need to whatever. And there's like this formula. I think you just gotta do what you're doing. You just gotta, like your dad said, do you believe in yourself to go and do it? Maybe stupidly, yes, or maybe actually now you look at it retrospectively and you're like, well, actually, I'm not going to say it's not hard. It's bloody hard. Like it's a stressful life, but the enjoyment and the thrill that you get from it on a daily basis beats everything that I've ever experienced, hands down. It's
Definitely.
incredible. I was on a trajectory to go and, like, I saw, and through my, I don't know what you call them, personal development reviews and things like that, like I was going fast through the ranks at the contractor I used to work with, and I saw myself as running that business at some point in the not too distant future. And I had people around me, I had mentors and things like that who were telling me, you will rise to the top here, and you're going to go and do some great things. And I could have done that, but I think there was an element in me that was, I can see too much of my future, and I almost like don't want to be able to see who I'm going to be in 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 years. Like I want to mix this up whilst I've got the opportunity to just actually take a few risks and have a bit of fun. And if it doesn't work out, you've got something to fall back on, right? And I think that's one of the best bits of advice, actually. And best bits of advice my parents told me when I was coming up through like education and stuff like that was go and get some qualifications of some sort. Like, it doesn't really matter, but in an industry that is known. And I was very good at sort of maths, but I was good with my hands, so that's why I went into civils. Go and get that, and then decide actually what you want to go and do, because you might actually say, well, actually I want to be a farmer. And one of my brothers has actually gone and done that. He was in construction, now he's gone back to the farm. There's so much opportunity out there, but just give yourself something to fall back on if it doesn't work out. I think was a good bit of advice. I mean, the problem with that is it meant that I didn't actually get out of university until I was like 23 or something, by which time probably could have achieved a lot, but it probably just made me feel as though I can just take more risks because I could always come back to something.
Definitely, having those fallbacks is always great. I mean, my stepdad is a farmer also for potatoes.
Nice. Good man.
Being a Cornish boy, I mean, there's plenty of farms down there. But yeah, so having that, or like, I mean, my dad having the business, but again, I still went to uni, and even though I did sports science, it's not like I'm going to fall back on it because I didn't ever do anything with sport. But still being able to, even if this company fell through, I know I could go and land a recruitment job tomorrow. I could go and
Yeah.
work for someone again. That would never be a challenge as such. And actually having that fallback, I think you are right. It allows me to be able to take more risks or try different things. For example, like when I tried this podcast to just generate all my business versus doing no cold outreach, that could have backfired very quickly. And I could have ended up because I literally from day dot, this is what I did.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
but it resulted in it being good. And I think when we're talking about growing and scaling orgs very quickly, that actually I know a couple of founders who have companies now that are like 113 employees, and I was chatting to one of them the other day. They just had their best month in revenue. They did 3 million rev in recruitment. And I went, oh, that's sick. And I went, what was profit on that, out of curiosity? He went, oh, we lost 300,000. And I went, okay, so my business is probably more profitable as a one-man company than yours right now. He's like, probably. And I was like, and it just that resonated so much with me, of that actually these leaner models actually taking your time to grow, where you're still keeping that focus on profit, because for him, it's an ego thing. It's that he wants a big company, he wants all these employees. I'm like, if you're not making any money, what's the point?
Yeah. No, exactly. You look at all the greatest orgs out there, and they have been around for a hell of a long time. These things, don't happen overnight. As much as anybody will try and tell you, oh, bloody hell, that blew up quick, you did really well there. It's absolute bollocks. Like, people have grafted for years. So to get to a position where actually they've got something that's stable, something that actually they can feel proud of, and then they can start to actually up the ante. And I I don't just think, but everything you listen to, like on podcasts out there at the moment, and everything you read about is actually coming back to what's the bare bones, the cause of this business, and what are you trying to deliver? Strip back all of the noise. And actually, most of them can be profitable organizations for some reason, and it's due to the amount of dry powder out there, cash out there, is nobody actually wants you to have a business that makes a profit, because it just means that then there's no opportunity for people to come in and fund those businesses because they're profitable. They don't need the cash to actually go and spend it. So yeah, no, it's mad, really. Like you look at these companies, and they're all founded around the same time as we founded InnDex, and their cap tables are just so complex. And they're now like trying to go back to, it's not growth at all costs. It's actually how do we make ourselves efficient, even if not quite profitable yet, but at least efficient, so we can go and raise that next round because we're on the elevator to unicorn status or whatever it might be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was only talking to a company the other day, and they literally lost 3 million last year in in profit, and then they just got funded 60 mil. I was like, who in their right mind is giving 60 mil to a company that lost 3 mil? But it's just the world that's the cybersecurity world. If you've got great tech at the time, more so now, they care about you being profitable and then they'll make the investment, but there's still investors out there that will just invest in just great tech because they obviously see the big.
It obviously makes sense out there. Like it obviously does. My brain's obviously not big enough to quite understand it or unpick it, or maybe I just ain't got the capacity to think about it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I always finish the podcast off with a bit about work-life balance. I would just one question of sort of like how you, as a founder, leader, just manage running a business, having a personal life, family, whatever it be.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm quite lucky. Like our office is here in London, and I live bang on 3 kilometers away. So yeah, it's a nice. Everyone always laughs. I always put up 3Ks on Strava, and I'm like, yeah, it's my standard run. But yeah, it is because it's into the office. So work-life balance is difficult. We've talked about it before. You're trying to build a business, and it's all on you and the people around you to both ensure that you've got the money to live, but also they've got the money to live as well. So it is difficult. We're remote first as an org. We try and get a percentage of people in on a Wednesday into the office, but we're very sort of do what you need to do. Although construction is 7 a.m. or maybe even 6 a.m. through until 6 p.m. every evening, and sometimes it's on the weekend. So there are people in the business who need to be available at all those times, but we're very much of a do what you need to do in your day. If you need to go out and do some errands and things like that, like just get it done, as long as you're not letting down your clients. Rather than saying they're our clients, they're your clients to look after. That's what's sort of driving you. Yeah, it's a hard one. Like I do a lot of things. Like I sauna a lot. I do all that sort of stuff. I take part in sort of like triathlons and Ironmans and get out my bike as much as possible. Although this year I've been awful at it. I need to book one. That's my problem. As soon as I book one, then I'm in and I'm doing it. But until you do, you just don't. Trying to think what else. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard as the founder to get the balance, but you just got to grab every opportunity you can, right? And get an hour here and there, decompress, read a book, get out in the sun. Gonna have a heat wave this week, so I'll probably be hiding in the aircon. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sat at my apartment that we just moved into, and it's got aircon, so I'm going to appreciate it this week. Not the
I was getting jealous. I can see the bloody vent up there, and I was thinking, you bastard.
Yeah, but I mean, look, obviously this year I've started to find that more balance. We're only talking about the fact of I've been to Dubai twice, was in south of France last week, but being able to sort of at the moment trying to make the most of being able to go where I can with my laptop or iPad as I use. It is hard to juggle because every time I go away or whatever I do, I always feel guilty because I feel like I could be doing more, I could be making more. And as a founder, I know every founder pretty much feels this, that it's that feeling of guilt that is hard to get over. I'm getting better at it, but still, like last night, because I know I'd been away, I was working till 3 a.m. just because I felt guilty that I'd been away. Realistically, that was a good night's sleep.
Yeah, you're guilty on both sides, though, aren't you? Because like you're guilty to the business, but then when you are when you're then working on the business, you feel guilty to everybody around you who are incredible people in your lives, and making sure that you're assigning your time so that we're all here to have enjoyable lives, and see the world and enjoy people's relationships with people. And you can do that in work. You also need to do it outside of work, and balancing the two is really difficult. I haven't got a golden bullet or silver bullet, whatever you call it. Like it's hard, but you're right. You just need to get away when you can. You just need to enjoy what you can, and you need to work with good people, because then actually it stops it being that actually it's all work and grind. It's actually quite enjoyable, and you can create quite a good sort of community through your work colleagues, your clients, and partners, and everybody who you sort of engage with. So I think, the big thing is don't take yourself too seriously, and everything then becomes a little bit more balanced. Like you can just enjoy doing what you're doing.
Definitely. Look, I think being able to integrate it, just and take the opportunities you mentioned, I think it's a great way to summarize trying to find a little bit of balance in our lives.
Yeah, one day. Well, you never want to, though. I think, like everyone always says, you want to build a business up and sell it. Everything that you read about people who have done this. I'm reading the book at the moment, and this guy who sold his business in 2023, and he's just like, what am I going to do now? And within 6 weeks, he was then back doing other bits and pieces, starting other business, investing in others, and things like that. You don't want to get out. You just need to get it to a place that it's growing how you need it to grow. You've got the right team around you, and you're managing to experience the life you want to experience, I guess. And that you got to just try and figure out. I haven't, but one day I aspire to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the chairman of a cricket club back home in Cornwall sold his recruitment agency, walked away with 280 mil in the bank, and then you were like, okay, cool. You've got plenty of money to not do anything for the rest of your life. He now owns 5 other companies, and he's a CEO of 3 of them. And I'm like, okay, but it's like that wealth then can bring more wealth, and it's that hunger. I think it's like anything. If you are a true entrepreneur, you have that hunger to always want more. And who wants to sit at home all day long and probably just get nagged to clean the house or whatever it be? It's just,
exactly. We're in Cornwall. I was born in Truro.
I was born in Truro.
No, really, that's hilarious.
Yeah, there we go. George, I can't thank you enough for your time on the podcast. It's been super insightful. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know the listeners will 100% take loads from this.
Appreciate it, mate. No, nice to jump on and have a chat. And next time I'll ask you.